Hi everyone, welcome to Tony Fox Tarot. Thanks for joining me today and great to have you with me. Today we're looking at your workplace situation. What's going on for you in your job? Are you happy in your job? Are you challenged? Is there a future for you where you are at this particular point in time in this role? We're going to look at your circumstances. We'll break that down by looking at anything that's going on for you, really. That could be workplace conflicts with other people, challenges that are overwhelming you and leaving you to feel that this is not where you want to be. Are you happy? Are you enjoying your job? Are you miserable? Do you want to get out? And if you were to get out, where are you going to go? Is there another job for you in another place? Or if you stay, is there room for development and growth and reward? So we're going to take a snapshot of where you're at this particular time and your experience of your job and the things that are going on for you. So we'll relate that into the context of a future timeline as well. So what are the future outcomes here in terms of where your job's going? Now, before we get started, if you want to go down below and hit subscribe, tap on the bell icon while you're there. That'll give you notifications for any future readings that I post. Like and share this video where you can, and if you're interested in the services that I offer as a psychic tarot reader, you can go to www.tonyfoxtarot.com. There's plenty of information about who it is that I am, what it is that I do, and how it is that you can access my service as a psychic tarot reader. Now, before you on the screen, we've got 4 different crystals, and the idea is to choose a crystal that resonates with you really clearly. Once you've made that choice, that will be your reading. Perfectly fine to choose more than one crystal if it comes through really strongly for you as well. Just remember, this is a general reading, so take what resonates and leave behind anything that doesn't. So we've got green fluorite, quartz crystal, black obsidian, and lapis lazuli. Now, taking a moment just to connect with the crystals, drawing in a nice deep breath. Using your inner voice, your intuition, the energy of the crystals. Which crystal comes to you the strongest? Is it the green fluorite, the quartz crystal, the black obsidian, or the lapis lazuli? So down below, there are 4 different timestamps representing each of these different crystals. If you would like to go to the one that you've chosen, I'll see you in a moment. Hi everyone, welcome to card number 1. This is your reading, and we're looking at what's going on in your work situation. And I have some cards on the table. Let's jump in and just go straight for it. And I get a sense that you're a very professional person who is very focused on what you're doing. My sense is that the job that you're currently in, there's a lot of opportunity here. But I think there's a great deal of pressure on you in terms of productivity. There's a bit of weight coming down on you, maybe from management or some kind of supervisory tier that's really placing a great deal of expectation. I don't feel like there's any problem there. I think if anything, you are super focused. Queen of Pentacles, the Hierophant represents management, institutions, hierarchy. Queen of Pentacles is very much about a card of productivity and focus and really trying to get results. And I get a sense that you're really trying to give them what they want. But also, I think it very much falls in line with what your capabilities are. I felt you were management material. And if you're not in management, there's definitely a sense that you take on responsibility quite naturally. And that you would be working towards management. Perhaps there's a sense of trying to let management know what it is that you're capable of doing. Not only is there pressure on you, you're putting pressure on yourself because you really want to prove yourself, prove what it is that you're actually capable of doing. I get, it's like a very dutiful individual in a way that's not kind of, you're not compliant in a passive way. I think you're just there to really be productive, stay professional, and to keep things focused in a way that really just, gets the job done. I felt that there was a lot in this job as well in terms of what it potentially gave you. I felt like there was a lot of reward here in terms of its ability to actually give you Security. I think security in terms of the longer term within the organization, but also security in terms of the financial productive outcomes. And I feel that you're a very aspirational person. You're somebody who's really looking to kind of make it in a way. I don't say that you're overly ambitious or trying to overshoot it. You're definitely somebody who wants to be comfortable and secure. The Queen of Pentacles is a card of security, but having that padding where you don't have to worry about things so much. I think, it's a card that reflects astute financial management. There's a lot of maturity here for me. You're not a bottom feeder. You're kind of working toward the top end, but maybe you're in the middle somewhere at this point in time. I don't feel like you're on the ground. You're not on the front line. You're kind of more at the middle, working towards the top. You're liaising with management. I feel like you have responsibility. There's no doubt about it. You've got responsibilities. I think there is pressure on you, and you're capable. So there's no problems there, but definitely wanting to get somewhere in life that is very much about reaching certain goals, to have some nice things in life, to be comfortable, to be secure, but very intelligent. I get somebody who's very intelligent with money. Now, if I look more to the past, though, I kind of feel like there's been some bit of grief going on here. The Three of Swords is a card that reflects grief. I feel that it's more about the atmosphere. I think there's an atmosphere here that's been very heavy. There's been a lot of stuff going down on in the background. I think that could be a workplace culture thing. Maybe 2 or 3 people that are just really challenging you in a way where they seem to be kind of quite abrasive, and out for conflict. And that's more because there's definitely a cutthroat element here. It's almost like they're trying to cut you out of the picture, trying to carve out a position for themselves. Feels collaborative. Feels like there's 3 people maybe, or maybe a small group of people that just are really pushing you out of the circle. And so I kind of feel that you've kind of gone it alone. It's like, okay, look, I'm not going to take all of that on. I'm just going to try and ignore it. Water off a duck's back. Don't let this bring you down. Just keep the energy up and do things your own way. If anything, this is an opportunity. I think that's what's really intelligent about you. You kind of seen this in a way where you can strategize it to maybe use it to your advantage. Actively distancing yourself from what's going on in a way where it's like, I'm not going to play that game. I'm not going to buy into that small-mindedness. It's not going to go anywhere. Let them show themselves up for who it is that they are. And so I kind of feel like you've been fairly happy just doing your own thing, going it alone. The Fool is about independence, doing things your own way. It's a bit of a renegade card on one level, because you have to have some guts to kind of do it your own way, to just kind of get off the mainstream. And I think also what you've brought to your role, it's I'm not doing things like that. I'm not doing things like the way you're all doing them. I want to do this independently in a unique way. There's an individuality here that shines through, that has something to say, that can do things differently, maybe more effectively, but also just not get weighted down by all of this workplace culture, negativity, maybe individuals that are negatively collaborating to conspire, drama, problems. But I will say this, it has not been easy, because I kind of feel like you've been dogged by them. Looking down here, the small dog, in the Fool. I mean, this is the thing about the Fool. The Fool is an independent card. It is going on its own path, but and it doesn't want to get caught up in that sort of small-minded, small talk. But it's also dogged by certain issues at the same time, and I feel, and when I say that, I mean, it's more because it's fueled by the 3 of Hearts, so no matter how much you've tried to sort of distance yourself, these people are kind of like, kind of pursued you, actively tried to make things difficult for you, tried to draw you in, to snare you into what's going on with them. And the negative workplace culture, the atmosphere, it's like you can't escape it because you are there. So you're constantly reminded of what's going on. Very, very challenging. Milk and Honey is a great card because this is sort of says to me that this is the land of milk and honey. I feel like you're in the right place. Yeah, there's so much productivity going on. There's so much to draw from, not just in terms of the reward that it gives you maybe on a financial level, but also the potential of developmental opportunity and experience. I kind of feel that there's an enormous amount here, that you're in the right place at the right time. There's a lot to feed from here. And largely, I kind of feel that the impact of this reading is sort of saying, right place, great place to be, lots of opportunity, a sense of being able to move up, a sense of being able to take control, to show people what it is you're really made of, to get productive outcomes, to step up towards higher management or higher management, to get closer to the top. You know, a person who exudes natural responsibility in a way where they take ownership over what it is that they're doing, who doesn't want to get bogged down in the small-mindedness, the small talk, the negative atmosphere. But the problem is, if we come over here to Strength and the Seven of Swords, you know, I think you're a very restrained and quite conservative person in many ways. And I think it's because of the kind of work that you're doing. Maybe that's who you have to be in order to fit into this role. I'm not saying that you're not spiritual, dynamic, or a renegade, but I felt that the atmosphere of this particular workplace environment was very conservative. You know, the Hierophant is a really stiff upper lip card. You know, it's quite demanding in terms. You know, this could be corporate even. You know, and if it's not corporate, it's definitely a conservative workplace that really expects you to comply with certain rules, regulations, sticking by the book. I think you're good at that, though. I think you're good at sticking by the book. You know, Strength is a card that says I'm gonna restrain, you know, the energy. I'm gonna fine tune it in a way where I don't react to what's going on. I'm gonna transmute what I'm seeing here on a negative level, and I'm actually going to use that to a professional advantage. I'm going to rise above it. There's opportunity here. I can see more in the distance in terms of what this reward can really give me. But it's coupled with the Seven of Swords. And the Seven of Swords is a very tricky card because there's always something going on in the background that's distracting you. You know, it shows us that there's people who are up to no good in the background. No matter how you try to restrain yourself, no matter how you try to keep professionally focused, no matter how you try to rise above it, somebody is always there dogging you in a way where they're trying to pull you back into this, I guess, it's kind of like a bit, I want to say cesspit, you know, like I kind of feel like it's pretty soupy stuff. I feel like what's going on in the background is really negative. I mean, if you look at the Three of Swords, we're all over the place, but if you keep on the thread with me, you'll get it. The Three of Swords, you know, it's heartache. Like it says, I feel really damaged by what's going on. Like this is not small. Like part of your professional self is saying, move on, rise above it. You know, there's a lot here to kind of, you know, to draw from in terms of what it will give me for my future. But on a personal level, like at a heartfelt level, you're like, my God, this is really, I just can't stand this. This is hideous. Yes, okay, I know what I'm doing. I'll just keep professional. I'll keep focused. I'll keep on producing the results. I'll make management happy. That's where I want to gravitate towards. I'll keep restrained. I'll rise above it. But at the same time, it doesn't stop. It's persistent. And it's always very pointed in terms of it trying to keep you into this loop that is all about negativity. And I get deceit going on here. I feel like people are making trouble. I feel that they're persistent in the way that they do that. I feel that the atmosphere is largely very negative in a way where it distracts you and kind of disturbs your ability to kind of maintain continuity in terms of constructive outcome. Coming down here, though, to the Magician and the Nine of Cups, you know, I kind of feel that part of you is saying, okay, just get on with it. Now, is it just get on with it in terms of staying where you are and getting on with it and say nothing about it, okay? The Nine of Cups, card of complacency to some degree. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to kind of like blank it out, whatever, you know, blocking that. But at the same time, you know, I kind of know that this isn't right. I'm not particularly happy with what's going on. I don't feel sold on the way things are being managed broadly because this behavior doesn't stop. But also, I kind of feel maybe a part of you also wants to move on, and maybe it's time to strike things into action to get over this by moving on, utilizing your skills, your experiences, everything that you've got on the table in a way where you can see new opportunity. So I kind of feel like it's a bit make or break in terms of where you're at the moment. I don't feel that moving on is going to really give you the answers. I feel that the opportunity that is in front of you in terms of what you're doing at this point in time is incredibly rewarding and has a lot of productive results for you on many different levels, both in terms of the reward that it gives you, in terms of the experience that it gives you, but also your ability to move on up and to get closer to maybe climbing up the ladder. Change maker, make waves. Really unassuming card. It doesn't look like it's saying a lot, but it's actually saying a shed load. This is about honoring your beliefs, okay? It's a catalytic card that requires you to become active. It's about being a peaceful warrior who's capable of making extraordinary changes. It's about putting energy behind your words, okay? And it's about wanting change in some ways, but not wanting to be the first domino to fall. You need to say something about what's going on here. You're so focused on doing the right things by complying with the rules, doing what's expected of you, not wanting to shake things up or rock the boat in a way that puts you out of step with management. A lot of what's going on behind you and around you, or even in front of you, is something that you're trying to ignore. You're trying to get away from it. You're trying to make out like it's not happening in some ways, but it is. And the reality is it's always going to be there, and it's going to continue to be there until you say something about it. You have to become active. You have to pipe up. You have to say something. You need to be as professional about calling out what's wrong here as professional as you are about focusing in on your job and getting it done, because it's all part of the package. Your responsibility, is a part of this, to address this is what I'm saying. If anything, this will actually put you in better step with what you're trying to achieve in the longer term, because it shows you have what it takes to call a spade, Ignoring it, hoping that it'll go away, leaving what's going on in the background to its own devices is not going to get you anywhere, because it's not going to stop. And even if you decided to move on from this particular role, if you go into another role, you're going to attract the same experience at some point, and you'll have to learn that lesson one way or the other. So it's better to do that today and face it than to put it off and actually have to do it tomorrow at a different place, at a different time. I feel you have what it takes. It requires you to become active. This is a great opportunity. I would be sticking with it because I feel it has an enormous amount of reward, but it's about managing circumstances effectively and professionally in a way where you're not putting somebody or a group of people or a situation into the pot in a way where you're landing them in it. You're actually just calling it out for what it is. What's going on behind you, around you, in front of you, it's wrong. It's not right, and it's affecting you, and you have legs to stand on here in terms of making a case to address it in a way where it's resolved, because you need to do the right thing by yourself as much as you need to do the right thing by the situation. Hope this has made some sense. If it has, please feel free to leave some comments down below. It'd be great to get your feedback. Like and share this video where you can. And if you're interested in the services that I offer as a psychic tarot reader, you can go to www.tonyfoxtarot.com. Thanks very much and take care. Hi everyone, welcome to card 2. This is your reading and we're looking at your work situation today. So let's jump in. I've got some cards on the table and I'm ready to go. And I feel starting up here with Judgment and the Queen of Swords. It's been a pretty tricky situation to navigate with employment. I feel like you've been in a job that has had an enormous amount of pressure placed on it. I feel like you've been micromanaged. For me, I get a sense of personality conflict. And I don't feel that it's necessarily amongst colleagues, like the people that you're working on the same level with. For me, this is more about a management problem. Perhaps there's a boss or a supervisor, or it could be just management in general. I felt that they were really overbearing in a very negative way, in a very demanding way. I feel like they're breathing down your neck all of the time, watching what you're doing, uh, following your comings and goings in a way where there's just no sense of freedom, no flexibility to be able to go out and have a break and just relax for a minute. It's like, somebody's kind of clocking you as you're going in and as you're coming out, and anticipating when you're supposed to be back and looking over your shoulder and making sure that you're doing things right. It's real micromanagement in a very negative way that just kind of like keeps you in control, really. There's a definite sense of control here. No freedom, but there's no reward in this either. I kind of really feel that it's almost like you're being treated really badly, very coldly. There's no recognition of a job well done. There's no acknowledgement of your efforts in a way that appreciates what it is that you're doing. It's very detached, very cold, and it leaves you to feel quite isolated in that there's sort of like a chasm of sort of space and experience between you and them. It's very us against them, and it leaves you to feel quite retaliative, very almost vindictive in a way. You want to get them back. I'm not saying that you do, but it kind of leaves like quite a sour taste in your mouth. And you're always anticipating the worst. You're always going into work thinking that something bad is going to happen because that's been your experience. Lots of pressure, lots of mistreatment, mismanagement. And if I look at more to the past, coming over here to the Moon and the Nine of Pentacles, I kind of feel that there's been a lot of continuity in this job. I think that it has lasted quite a distance. I feel that perhaps for some of you, you've actually been in this job for quite a long time. It's kind of plodded along in a way where it's plotted its own course. The parameters on the job. It's a job perhaps you can go to and come away from without having to think about it too much. But there's no challenge there. Like it's purely just routine experience. Like you're going in, you're doing your job. In some ways, maybe you can do that blindfolded because there's a high level of predictability about it. And I think that that's been very frustrating for you because you're not challenged in a way where you feel like there's anything dynamic going on. There's no new experiences. It's just more of the same every day. Again, this thing about reward comes up again for me again with these two cards. I feel that you're not getting rewarded for your experience in a way that gives you any motivation to put any more into the job. I don't feel like you're getting paid enough for the experience that you're actually getting in terms of treatment. I don't feel like you've been enjoying this job ever. I kind of feel like it's always been a bit of a problem for you. But it does give you continuity on a different level in terms of your own personal life. So, it puts food on the table. It gives you enough to work with to maintain continuity in terms of paying the bills and living. But it's not giving you enough to get ahead. I didn't feel that. I didn't feel like you were getting enough to kind of get ahead. And I think there's been a lot of worry about that, a lot of worry about the fact that there's no room for development, both professionally, but also in terms of, financial remuneration. It's kind of like it's a very, I wouldn't say this is dead end, because I think you can actually last the distance for a bit longer if you really had to, but it's just, there's just nothing there to kind of grow into. Yeah. So I feel like you're at a crossroads now about making decisions about what you want. Am I in? Am I out? What am I doing? I've had enough. I think in your mind you've left. I feel like in your mind you've left the job. It's like, you know what? I'm done here. And perhaps that kind of translates, into an experience where you're just going in, doing what it is that you need to do, and you leave, and you're just not thinking about it. And so you're certainly not trying not to think about it when you go home, and you're almost trying not to think about it even when you're there. You're just going through the motions just to kind of put bread on the table, really. I felt that meant in some ways that meant that you were thinking about moving on, but there was a lot of worry about that. It's like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? I feel like you're very bruised by this experience in a way that, you have been mistreated. And perhaps because of this kind of like, it's quite deep-seated, like, I feel like you've been conditioned to think that this is normal in some ways. I think the workplace culture has adapted to being in this situation or to being under these circumstances in a way where it's become normalized. And the thing is, it's not. You shouldn't actually be experiencing what it is that you're experiencing. You should be getting rewarded. You should be getting acknowledgement of a job well done. And you should actually have some sense of cohesion between yourself and your other workmates. I feel like everybody's a bit of a Walking Dead kind of, character. It's like we're just all going through the motions. We're not really talking to each other. We're just ticking boxes. We're doing the job and we're getting out of here. And all we're ever doing really is answering to management or our boss or our supervisor. And it's demand, micromanage in a way where there's no enjoyment in this. All the air's taken out of the room as a consequence. So I felt that you were projecting quite negatively into the future about what that meant. I think you were ready to move on. You're on the precipice. It's like you're looking over a cliff. It's like, oh my God, do I take the leap of faith or just stick with what I've got? But you know that you're not going to, so you're ready to move on. I felt that there was time that needed to recover from this. I don't feel like it's about going from one job to another. I kind of want to say like that if you were to go to another job, you'd be taking that job because it was out of desperation as opposed to what it is I really want. If that need to kind of, keep the momentum going in terms of, money coming in, your routine experience in terms of your personal life. I didn't think that you were at a point of feeling what it is that you wanted to do. If we come down here, my sense is that you are going to move on. I felt that there was money in the bank. The four of Pentacles, indicates security. I'm looking at this as the future, moving into the future. I kind of felt that there was security on the ground for you, that you had what you need, that you'd land on your feet, right? I felt that there is going to be work in the balance for you. This requires a leap of faith. But it also means you need to let go for all of the right reasons. It's not just about pressuring yourself to get another job, because that's just putting more and more pressure on yourself. If anything, you need to have no pressure. And that's where the Fool comes in. It's just about going with the flow, letting go of all the responsibilities, just feeling it through from a very intuitive, inspirational point of view that just allows you to get a sense of what feels right as opposed to what you think is right. Because up here with the Queen of Swords, you're very much in your head about this experience. You're going over and over what it is that's happened. You feel quite damaged about, the circumstances that have led you to this particular point, but you're also very much in the experience. The Queen of Swords is a card of pain and sorrow. So it's still very much in that experience of feeling very hurt about what it is that's happened. And there's been a lot of worry. The Moon is a really worrisome card. It leads to depression. Perhaps you've actually been very depressed, very down, very low about this experience. The energy feels very low for me. I feel a lot of oppression here. It hasn't been a healthy period of time for you. It's given you what you've needed at a baseline, but it hasn't given you anything more to flourish as an individual in the workplace. And the thing is that what really surprises me is you're actually a very, very intelligent individual. The Queen of Swords, high end of the order, sits there with the King at the throne in terms of the sort of in terms of the order of the suits. The order of the swords. Highly intellectual, very analytical, total leadership qualities going on there. Really very, very responsible card, and a high level of sophistication. I think you should reward yourself with the acknowledgement that you've actually managed to last as long as you have in this job, because the kind of intelligence that you have is one of a very, very sophisticated degree that really needs to be engaged in a way where you're dynamically captured in terms of your involvement, because I don't think that usually you wouldn't suffer this kind of experience or these kinds of people that you'd be dealing with in management in any way, shape or form. So I kind of feel that you have natural capabilities in terms of what it is that you are capable of doing as an individual. Leadership is definitely one of them. I think you're very sort of much a natural leader. Coming down here to the Fool and the Four of Pentacles, I felt that you would hit the ground running, that you would land on your feet. There's security here behind you to support you. I felt that there was a job that would happen 3 to 4 months after you'd kind of made that move to move on. But there was a period of time, within that 3 to 4 months that you really needed to consolidate your position, where you didn't have pressure, that you had a sense of recovery, but also a sense of hope. Over here to Fearless Expression. It's a card that asks us to look at self-confidence, to accept our true value. Yeah. Continuity has been your main game. You've given it a solid, sterling effort. Despite all of the challenges that you've been through, you've actually lasted the distance. You've been in this job for quite a while, and you've actually shown that you can work under pressure. Yeah, you need to actually really reward yourself there. And also, Fearless Expression also is about finding the courage to move on. It's about recognizing that this has been a difficult situation, but it takes courage to actually make that decision to say, I've had enough. Yeah. Maybe I don't know where I'm going next, but I'm going to do it because I know that that's actually what's right for me. That's what's best for me. I deserve better. I'm worth more. Success is deeply connected to your self-expression. This is a card of expression. But what does that really mean? Does it mean verbal expression, or does it mean expression of the true person that you really are? I feel like you've been oppressed, that your personality has been pushed down every step of the way through this experience. The real you hasn't even had a chance to be its real self. It's time to let that shine through. I don't feel like you're in a position to fully understand what that means until you've had some time to consolidate, and having the freedom just to be who it is that you are without all of this going on, in a way where you don't have to go in and do another job. Giving yourself some time and some space to unfold, the creative expression will come up. Will come up. Yeah, it's about a road less traveled. It's about doing something a bit more individualized that is expressive of who it is that you are as a person. Yeah, it's about finding the courage to move on. It's time to move on. It's time to let go. It's time to give yourself some time to just recover. Yeah, and within 4 months, you'll be back on your feet, ready to go, doing something very different that's much more reflective of who it is that you are as a person. The universe has got you here, yeah? Trust. Hope this reading has made some sense, and if it has, feel free to leave some comments down below, and please like and share this video where you can. Hit subscribe, tap on the bell icon, that'll give you notifications for any future readings that I post. If you're interested in the services that I offer as a psychic tarot reader, you can go to www.tonyfoxtarot.com. There's plenty of information about who it is that I am, what it is that I do, and how it is that you can access my service as a psychic tarot reader. Thanks very much and take care. Hi everyone, welcome to card 3. This is your reading, and we're looking at your future outcomes in terms of what's happening with work. We're looking at your work situation as well. We've got some cards on the table, ready to jump in. I got a very enthusiastic worker here. Very positive attitude. You're a very can-do person. You certainly like to take it all on. You're not somebody who says no to anything either, which, to your merit, is probably one of the strongest features, positive features of your your characteristic nature. I get somebody who's been working very hard. If I look more to the past, I kind of feel like you've thrown yourself into a situation. It's all guns blazing. I kind of feel like you've hit the ground running and you've just assumed a whole lot of work. I felt that there was a kind of like almost like an unmapped sort of territory in terms of what it was that you were throwing yourself into. This could be a lot of different things. I felt that perhaps it could be cross cover, like more than one job, a project perhaps that hadn't been defined, or a job with that, some sort of a job without a job description. I kind of felt like you'd sort of thrown yourself into like a focus in work that assumed a lot of different responsibilities that just had not been mapped out, actually. And it was up to you to kind of figure it all out, so once again, hitting the ground running. And I think you've been really happy doing that in a way. It's all been very new, I felt. And and you've had to get used to it in a way where you're figuring it out on your feet. So you're kind of doing it as it comes through, and you're kind of putting it all together in a way where it makes sense to you. I kind of felt like you've been the lead on this. I didn't get any involvement with anybody else. I felt like it was you doing all the hard yards, and you've been very determined with this. I think there's been a lot of experience for you in this particular role or pathway. I think you've had an enormous amount of energy. I get gusto here. I get, determination. I get somebody who is like, very yes to everything. And I think you've pieced it together in a way where you really brought it all together to make a success of it. The Sun is a card of happiness. Very positive card that also reinforces a very strong foundation in terms of the experience that you're having. The Ten of Wands is a card of, well, it's a card that just takes it all on. It's definitely a card that says yes to everything. It's a can-do attitude card that also assumes a lot of responsibility. I felt that there was just no stopping you on this particular job or project, or you were taking the lead, and you're the person that everybody's coming to as far as how it all works. I didn't feel that anybody else knew how it worked. I didn't feel that anybody else was assisting you. I felt this was all on your shoulders. So definitely taking ownership, and it's kind of led you to this point now, though. We're over here to the Fool and the Nine of Wands, and I felt now, though, you're just like, I get exhaustion coming through here. I get somebody who's feeling a bit bruised, a bit battered. It's like, oh my God, I've just been working so hard, and I just don't know whether I can keep this up. I need to get my breath, and the responsibility aspect now is really starting to burden you in a way where it's like, I just don't want to know about it. I just need some distance. I need some space. I kind of just don't want to answer the phone, look at my emails, or hear about what it is that's going on. Can you just keep away from me? But you're the go-to person. You're the one that's made this into a success, and everybody's looking at you as, the one that knows what to do, because you are. Nobody else knows how it works. I felt that nobody else has stepped in to manage you, that there was nobody else assisting you on this particular job or project or whatever it is. And you're kind of at a point now where it's like a bit make or break. It's like, am I staying with this? What am I doing? Where am I going? The Fool is about new beginnings. It's a very inspirational card. It wants to let go of responsibility. So probably for some of you, it might be the idea of maybe just moving on and doing something new because you kind of feel really exhausted. The Nine of Wands is definitely a card of exhaustion. It's still a hard-working card. It's up there with the 10. But it's questioning the sustainability of what it is it's doing now, because it's like, look, I just can't keep up this unless I make my mind up that it's worth fighting for. Then I'll go the extra distance. But you're like, look, this isn't sustainable. I don't want that responsibility. I don't want that burden. I'm sick of people being at me. Maybe I need to figure out what it is that I've been doing in a way where I excuse me, in a way where I move on and do something very different. So I think you've begun to pull away a lot. You're not so motivated. I don't get any resentment or bad feeling coming through here. It's more just like a make or break moment, whether it's, you stay to fight another day or whether you're actually out doing something very different. So a very determined person who's made a success of pulling it all together, but it's become unsustainable in as much as it just keeps on piling on, like it doesn't stop. And I think it's the recognition that you can't do it alone anymore. You need help here. We come down here to the Empress and the Three of Pentacles. I felt that a big part of where things were at for you in terms of making, because I really felt that there was there was a lot of opportunity here. This was a very positive experience overall. As tired as you may be, you're kind of looking at it through the lens of exhaustion. You're not looking at it through the lens of an opportunity that really will fail or can fail, or that isn't worth it. Is what I'm saying. I kind of feel that there's still a lot of productive results that are potentially possible here as far as moving yourself forward. a big part of where this is at for me is about formalizing the process of what it is that you've been doing. It's like you need to document what's been going on in a way where everything is professionally focused and, I guess put into a formula or into a table or into a document. Because you're just working through things in a way where it's kind of like, taking it on as it comes and assuming responsibilities in a way where, you're recognized as being the go-to person to make this a success or to get the job done. But, that's not sustainable for you in a way where you can kind of hand it over to anybody else either. And get them to understand what your efforts are all about and how things have actually been working for you and what's required of that particular role. So it needs a description for me. It needs to be documented into a process so that it actually can be handed to somebody maybe more senior or, to your organization or to your boss or to your management, so that they can recognize that this needs to be divided up. Because when you look at it, I kind of felt that there was three different components to what it is that you've been doing. I kind of felt that there were, if anything, there were like 2 or 3 different jobs within that one job. It's like, so you've been doing like 2 to 3 jobs all on your own. So no wonder you're exhausted. But a big part of what that's about is really articulating, the experience in a way that, puts it into something that's recognizable in terms of a description of that experience. So it's about making this concrete. The three of Pentacles is a card of foundations. Yeah. So it's about putting things into place in a way where we recognize how to build something, what underpins a particular situation, like a job. The Empress is a card of productivity. It's a high yielding card that gets a lot of growth. And when you look at breaking this down into the correct 2 to 3 different jobs, there's a lot of productive outcomes here in terms of what this means for where it is that you work. So you've actually assumed all of this responsibility and successfully, mapped out an experience that makes not only logical sense but also is divided up into productivity. Yeah. So this kind of is really helping or reinforcing the place that it is that you work. But I felt that assistance was needed, so this meant that you needed other people to come and help you to do what it was that you were doing, by dividing the work up. Also, it was also about your ability or your capacity to be able to do things very successfully in a way that underpins you and your productive outcomes, and that you needed formal recognition on that level. Your past supports your future. This really ties in with what I'm talking about. It's because it's all about your merit and your loyalty and your steadiness. Like that's actually it's really helped to kind of make this into what it is today. And I felt that you kind of really needed to work through that negative energy that you were experiencing just at the moment by putting things into perspective. You have to look at what it is you've been doing and why it is that you're exhausted. It's because you've been working really hard. But it's time to work intelligently. You can't just assume things. You've thrown yourself into the deep end and you've assumed a lot of responsibility. You've tried to make it work and you've just given it your all. But now it's time to formalize that in a way where it's documented and you can hand it over and, give it to somebody else who actually has authority to make it into something more, whilst also recognizing your efforts. I felt that this was an opportunity for you to step up, to gain greater recognition, but also to gain better reward in terms of your financial worth. It's so very much your past supports your future is very much in that context. It's about getting what you deserve and improving your future as a consequence. So you're drawing from your past experiences, but you've also collected a lot of knowledge. You're displaying skills, experiences that show your worth because you are valued in terms of what is you're capable of doing. And Also, utilizing that experience in a way that actually puts you into good light and helps you to step up to gain more worth and value and reward. So for me, this is a good stepping stone. I felt that it was really a very positive environment, that it was worth staying and sticking in. This is worth fighting for, but it's just about working intelligently. I hope this reading has made some sense to you, and if it has, please feel free to leave some comments down below. It'd be great to get your feedback. Like and share this video where you can. Hit subscribe, tap on the bell icon. That'll give you notifications for any future readings that I post. If you're interested in the services that I offer as a psychic tarot reader, you can go to www.tonyfoxtarot.com. There's plenty of information about who it is that I am, what it is that I do, and how it is you can access my services as a psychic tarot reader. Thanks very much and take care. Hi everyone, welcome to card number 4. This is your reading and we're looking at what's going on with your work situation. So let's jump in, some cards on the table. And I'm drawn here to the Hermit and the 8 of Pentacles. I feel like you've come to a point where, it's a bit, am I staying or am I going, really? I think you've been working really, really hard for a very long time. Pushing is what I get. A lot of persistence to get ahead, really. I think it's been a real journey with your work as well. There's been a lot of, I don't want to say struggle. I kind of feel like it's been worth it, but it hasn't been easy. I kind of feel that you've been under a lot of pressure for a really long time. Been very focused on getting ahead financially, ticking all the boxes in terms of wanting to be at a particular point in your life before you can start to think about moving on maybe from what it is that you're doing. And at the moment, I felt that there's a lot of soul searching going on about your future. So, you're really reflecting on this particular role, dissecting it in a way where you're understanding what it is that you've drawn from it, from experience, whether you're really happy with it or whether it's time maybe to move onwards. There's this thing about wanting to take control. And I wondered whether for some of you this actually meant about maybe starting up your own business or translating the work that you were doing previously into some kind of work for the future. That could be about your own business, or it could be about transitioning into something else that's similar and related, but maybe, in a different place where there's a lot less pressure. I felt like it was about slowing down the pace for you at this particular point in time, wanting to find a more sustainable way of working. And I kind of feel like, for me, it feels like I want it to be less exhausting. I kind of feel like you've learned. I mean, the Hermit is a card of deep reflection, but it's also about learning. I kind of feel like you've learned an enormous amount in this particular role. It sets you up. I mean, you've climbed a bit of a mountain here. You've really done a lot of the hard yards that have given you experiences, a skill set perhaps that's quite unique, but it also elevates you to a position where maybe you don't have to keep on pushing it so hard. 8 of Pentacles is definitely about getting ahead financially, wanting to stay on track with your financial focus, to make progress. There's a very strong sense here about wanting to be in a particular place where things are financially set. Maybe that would make you feel comfortable so that you could move on. But this idea about taking control in the 8 of Pentacles is very strong. Often it points to your own business. And that doesn't have to mean that you're setting up shop in a way where it is necessarily your own business. It might mean freelancing or some kind of contract work. Essentially, it's about taking yourself off taking yourself away from the way it is that you've been working into the context where you're more of a free agent, really, or where you're actually owning your own business. But coming over here to strength and the 5 of Wands, and this is looking more up to the past. I kind of feel like your workplace has been very competitive, very industrious. It's been very industrious workplace, very competitive with lots of people in the mix. This could mean a couple of things. It could mean that you're working in an area or a place, like in a workplace, where there's a lot of people on the floor with you or who work in your workplace who are very competitive. There was this sense of, constantly having to be at the edge or at the forefront with what you're doing in a way that you don't want to you don't want to give anybody an inch because they'll take a mile. But I felt it was healthy competitiveness. It doesn't have to be unhealthy, but it keeps you on guard all the time. You're having to sort of figure out what's going on in a way where you're abreast of all of the issues. You have to be very engaged. You can't let your guard down. You have to look at what's going on. You have to understand who's around you, who's within your network, what they're doing, how it relates to what you're doing. And there is a competitiveness there. I think maybe not only within the workplace, but also within the industry. It's like, it's push, 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 push. This could be a lot of different things. Could be sales, could be a financial sector, could be some sort of creative industry as well. I mean, strength is a highly creative card, but it's also a health card as well. So it could be the health, it could be like, something like medical sales. It doesn't have to fit that, it's whatever resonates to you at a core level. The competitiveness is very strong though. There is definitely an element of cutthroatness here, of others always taking the edge. So if you do give them that inch, they will take that mile and you will lose the competitive edge. There was an on-call nature about this work. It's something that you can never put down. It's like, you're at work, you're fully engaged, you're watching what's going on. And, if you leave work, you're keeping an eye on it. Maybe you're keeping an eye on your phone or your emails or calls that are coming through, and that kind of eats into personal time. So you're looking at that after hours. You're looking at that on the weekends. It eats into the balance of work life. And at the same time, I felt like there was a real camaraderie with this competitive sort of thing that I'm picking up. I kind of feel like the people that you're working with, although it is competitive, you're all on the same team as well. You get along really well in a way where perhaps these people are the only kinds of people that can really understand what it is that you're doing. I didn't feel that this was work that you wanted to necessarily share with other people, because by the time you get home, you've had enough because it's exhausting. It's very demanding work. You're constantly engaged. You don't really want to be talking about it to your friends, to your family, to your partner maybe. So this idea of the workplace culture was very important because maybe you can debrief that with a drink or two after work with people that you're working with, or at lunch or on a break. You can talk shop in a way where you both understand, and it's quite compartmentalized in a way. I think my sense is that you've been all consumed by this work, but it's given you a very sure footing. It's helped you to get on your feet. I kind of feel like things have been very stable, but it's push, 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 non-stop, very demanding, very competitive. And I think it's really helped you to rise up to where it is that you are at the moment, because the hermit is on top of the mountain, it's reflecting back at what it's done, climbing up the mountain. You climb to a position, you're actually in a really good place. So I feel like you've got options. You can move ahead in a way where maybe you can translate what it is that you've actually been doing into something that's actually, future-proofed, but less demanding and more or less in control. You're at the reins. Coming down here to judgment. The 10 of Cups. They're very important cards in the context of what we're seeing here, because I feel like, there's a lot of weight, a lot of gravity as to where you're at the moment about happiness. And this, for me, feels work-life balance is really the core issue here. You've been under a lot of pressure, people breathing down your neck, constantly having to rise to the occasion to deliver in terms of responsibility, to stay engaged with the work that you're doing in a way that really rises up and gives them what they want, but also gives you what you want for the longer term. I feel like you've constantly been planning ahead. You're a tomorrow person in this job. Yeah. You're always thinking about where it's going to take you, what it's going to give you, the point that you'll get to at some point that's not today, that gives you the freedom maybe to change tact and do something different, or so it's always thinking about tomorrow. It's not really today. And don't get me wrong, because I think you've actually really enjoyed what you're doing, but you've come to a point now where you're saying, I just don't feel like this is sustainable. Too much pressure, too demanding. My priorities need to change, maybe socially, maybe ethically, maybe even morally. I think ultimately, you want to be happier. The 10 of Cups. I think for some of you that might mean the family balance, or that the happiness of friends and socializing, and just having some room to be able to breathe and relax and enjoy your life without the demands of what's going on in the background with your work. I felt like there was some sense for some of you maybe of this idea of wanting to work somewhere else, maybe wanting to move away, maybe wanting to work remotely, maybe wanting to be in the countryside, having some space, not being in the mix of it, not being on the hamster wheel of, commuting to work, or at the very least being in the, in the demands of, constantly having to rise up to responsibilities with work. There is a sense of this kind of nagging nature of wanting something more than what it is that I've got, which brings us to prosperity sisters, our happiness and joy. And this really builds on what I've identified in the sense that finding joy in the little things is what really matters. Yeah. I feel like you're at a point where it's make or break. Judgment is a crossroads that says, am I moving forwards? Am I staying? What am I doing? I need to weigh up the big questions in order to move forward in life. I need to rise to this occasion in a way where here with the 10 of Cups, where I feel happier, where the work-life balance is much more healthy. And prosperity sisters are happiness and joy. It really sort of says to you, prosperity comes from happiness, or it comes with happiness, joy, and health as much as it does about work and prosperity in terms of, your financially measurable outcomes. And I think for you, it's been all about the job in relation to where it is that you want to be tomorrow, next year, the year after, 10 years, 20 years' time. It's time to think about what today means. It's time to get a balance of what your happiness means, to get a measure of that in a way where you actually have some continuity. And at the moment, this job is just constant. It's never going to change. It's always going to be that. But the only way you're going to move beyond it is to make the decision to make a break from it. The money's never going to be enough, for you to feel secure, to make a decision that it's the right time. You have to take a risk at some point by measuring what happiness, joy, and health really means. So I kind of feel it's about it's about waking up and smelling the coffee, waking up and smelling the roses. It's a good day to make that change today. For me, I kind of also felt there was important context here of embracing community, embracing, I guess, this idea of family and sort of, people. It's about having a happy life in a way where perhaps you're once again taking the logic out of the equation and actually feeling heartfelt about what it is that you need to do. I got a sense that it's time to move on, to let go of this. You've got the experience that you need. You've reached the summit in terms of your know-how, your skill set. You're primed and you're ready to point yourself in a new direction. I think you just need to let this go. I think a part of you is also addicted to this. I would say that you have really enjoyed what it is that you've been doing. I think you might feel a bit lost without it because you need to work out a new way of living in some ways. You've been all about the job, based on maybe some security issues in terms of wanting to have something for tomorrow. But I think, the two of these things are intertwined. So decisions need to be made. The priority now is on your happiness. It's on joy, it's on health, it's about a work-life balance, it's about lessening the pressure and moving forward in a direction that gives you greater control, that builds on what it is that you've actually been doing, and points really solely to, like a vision of health, happiness, and joy. I've already said that, but I'm going to say it again. So there you go. I hope this reading has made some sense. And if it has, feel free to leave some comments down below. It'd be great to get your feedback. Like and share this video where you can. Hit subscribe, tap on the bell icon. That'll give you notifications for any future readings that I post. And if you're interested in the services that I offer as a psychic tarot reader, you can go to www.tonyfoxtarot.com. There's plenty of info about who it is that I am, what it is that I do, and how it is that you can access my service as a psychic tarot reader. Thanks very much and take care.